We are always told to make smart decisions. Protect your future. Cut your losses. Don't bet on a sinking ship. In this story, one woman did exactly that. Her name was Orpah. She did the logical thing. She went back to safety. And because she chose safety, you have never heard of her again. But the other woman? She chose social suicide. She chose to walk into a land that hated her, with a mother-in-law who had nothing but bitterness to offer. By every metric of common sense, it was the worst investment in history. But God doesn't look at spreadsheets. This is the story of how a smart decision can erase your destiny, and how a reckless risk can save the world. 2 widows, 2 roads. One leads to oblivion. The other leads to the King of Kings. Which road are you on? The wind on the plains of Moab isn't gentle. It's a thief. It screams through the valley, whipping sand against the 3 women standing on the ridge. Look at the ground. 3 fresh scars in the earth. 3 mounds of dirt piled with rough stones. This is the harvest of 10 years in a foreign land. Naomi stands in the center, a silhouette of ruin against a bruised purple sky. She isn't crying. Her face is set like flint, her eyes dry and hollow. She is staring at the stones as if trying to calculate exactly how much God has taken from her. 10 years ago, her husband Elimelech led them out of Bethlehem to escape a famine. He traded the house of bread for the fields of Moab. He thought he was saving his family. He was wrong. The land of Moab devoured them. First the husband, then the 2 sons. The attempt to outrun hunger only led them into the mouth of death. Now the lineage is broken. The protection is gone. In this brutal world, a woman without a man is not just lonely. She is exposed. She is prey. Naomi looks at her hands. They are empty. She is hollow. There is no inheritance left to trade, no sons to offer the world. She is a social ghost, erased from the ledgers of society. The silence of the graves is louder than the wind. It screams the truth she doesn't want to admit. The gamble failed. She left full, like a queen with her court. She is now a beggar in a land that hates her accent and her God. To her right stands Ruth. She isn't looking at the graves. She is watching Naomi. Ruth reaches out a hand to steady the older woman against the gale, gripping her arm with a desperate strength. But Naomi flinches. She pulls her arm away, wrapping her shawl tighter around her thin shoulders. Her grief is hardening into something sharp bitterness. She doesn't want comfort. She wants an explanation from the Almighty. She rejects the touch of the Moabite girl because it reminds her of everything she has lost. Naomi turns her back on the graves and looks west. The wind carries a rumor dusty and faint that the Lord has visited his people. There is bread in Bethlehem again. But to go back means walking past the neighbors who watched her leave. It means enduring the whispers. It means the walk of shame. Naomi makes her choice. She would rather be humiliated in her home than buried in this cursed dirt. She takes the first step, her sandals crunching on the dry ground, leaving the dead behind to fight for the living. The road to Judah is a scar of white dust cutting through the rocky hills. They have walked for hours in silence, the only sound the scuff of leather sandals and the rhythmic breathing of 3 women carrying everything they own on their backs. But suddenly, Naomi stops. She doesn't just pause to rest. She plants her feet and turns around, blocking the path like a gatekeeper. The sun is high now, casting short, sharp shadows that offer no hiding place. She looks at Ruth and Orpah, their faces flushed with heat, their youth still visible beneath the grime of travel. Naomi realizes she is committing a crime against them. She is dragging fresh life into a graveyard. She speaks, and her voice is as dry as the landscape. "Go back," she commands. "Go back to your mother's houses." It isn't a suggestion. It's an order born of love. Naomi looks at them and sees wasted potential. In Moab, they have value. In Moab, they are citizens. In Moab, They're foreign gods Chemosh, and the rest offer a comfortable, familiar predictability. Why would you come with me? She asks, her hands gesturing to her own emaciated frame. Look at me. I am a tree that has ceased to bear fruit. The Lord has dealt bitterly with me. Do not tie your ships to a sinking vessel. Then comes the argument of pragmatism. It is brutal biological logic. Do I have sons in my womb that could become your husbands? She cries out. Even if I found a husband tonight, even if I conceived a son in this very hour, would you wait until they were grown? Would you wither and age while waiting for a child who is not yet born? She is forcing them to look at the timeline. She is showing them the mathematics of their own biology. I am a dead end, she is saying. My womb is a tomb. There is no harvest left in me. Don't glean in a field that has already been burned. Naomi isn't just depressed. She is protecting them from the hand of the Lord. She believes, with terrifying certainty, that God has targeted her. The hand of the Lord has gone out against me, she whispers, tears finally cutting tracks through the dust on her cheeks. She sees herself as a lightning rod for divine wrath. She wants Ruth and Orpah to step away before they get struck too. It is a selfless rejection. She is trying to scare them off the path of faith because she believes the path of faith leads only to hunger and death. She points back toward the hazy outline of the Moabite mountains. Go, she pleads. Find rest in the house of a husband. Find security. Find bread. She is offering them the smart choice, the choice that makes sense. She is begging them to choose the visible comfort of an idol over the invisible, crushing weight of the God of Israel. It is the ultimate test of loyalty. When the person you are following tells you that following them is a mistake. Naomi stands there, a broken prophetess, demanding that they abandon her to save themselves. There is a long, agonizing silence on the road. The wind pulls at their hair, a constant reminder of the exposure they face. Orpah looks at Naomi. She looks at the tears in the old woman's eyes, tears that acknowledge the brutal truth of their situation. Orpah loves Naomi. She has shared grief, meals, and the terrifying silence of the house after the funerals. But Orpah also has eyes. She looks at the dusty road ahead, leading to a foreign land where she will be a despised immigrant. Then she looks back at the mountains of Moab. Back there, she has a mother. She has a father. She has a shrine to her gods who, unlike Yahweh, didn't kill her husband. Orpah makes the choice that 99% of us would make. She chooses pragmatism. She chooses the known misery over the unknown terror. She bursts into fresh tears, loud and guttural, the sound of a heart breaking under the weight of logic. She steps forward and kisses Naomi on the cheek. It is a kiss of finality. It is a kiss that says, I love you, but I cannot die with you. She isn't a villain. She is a survivor. She turns her back on the God of Israel, not out of malice, but out of fear. Naomi watches her go. She doesn't stop her. In fact, she breathes a sigh of relief. One less mouth to feed, one less life to ruin. Orpah's figure gets smaller and smaller in the shimmering heat of the desert afternoon, walking back toward safety, back toward anonymity. She is walking out of the Bible and into oblivion. She chose the smart path, the safe path, the logical path. And in doing so, she walked away from history. The sound of her sandals fading away is the sound of common sense leading the story. But Ruth does not move. Naomi turns to her, expecting the same departure. Look, Naomi says, pointing at Orpah's retreating figure. Your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after her. It is the final push. The door is wide open. But Ruth does something that defies biology and reason. The ancient text says she clung to Naomi. The word is debak, the same word used when a man cleaves to his wife, or when scales stick to a fish. She physically grips the old woman's robe. Her knuckles are white. She isn't just staying. She is fusing herself to Naomi's disaster. Then, Ruth speaks words that have been romanticized in weddings for centuries. But in this moment, on this dirty road, they are a suicide note to her old life. "Do not urge me to leave you," she says, her voice trembling but steel hard. "Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge." She is renouncing her geography, but she goes deeper. "Your people shall be my people." She is renouncing her ethnicity. She is choosing to become a Jew, a target of scorn in her own homeland. And then the terrified climax. "Your God, my God." This is the hinge of history. Ruth looks at the God who seemingly destroyed Naomi's life, the God who allowed famine and death, and she says, "I want him." It is his loyal love in its purest, most irrational form. She invokes a curse upon herself. "May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you." She is binding her soul to a woman who has nothing to offer but bitterness. Naomi looks at her, stunned into silence. There is no logic here. There is only a terrifying, beautiful risk. Naomi stops arguing because you cannot argue with a dead woman walking. Ruth has killed her past. Together, they turn their faces toward Bethlehem, walking into a future that promises nothing but struggle. They arrive in Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. The town is buzzing with life, the smell of roasted grain in the air, a cool contrast to their empty stomachs. As they walk through the narrow limestone streets, the chatter stops. Heads turn. Whispers ignite like sparks in dry grass. This is a small town. Everyone knows everyone. The older women peer closely at the haggard, sun-baked figure leading the strange girl. They gasp. Is this Naomi? The question hangs in the air, heavy with judgment. Is this the woman who left with a wealthy husband? Is this the noble wife? Look at her tunic, torn and dusty. Look at her face, mapped with sorrow. Naomi hears them. She doesn't shrink back. She snaps. She stops in the middle of the market square and addresses the gossip directly. "Do not call me Naomi," she says, her voice rasping with exhaustion. The name Naomi means pleasant. It is a lie now. "Call me Mara," she commands, bitter, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. She points a finger at the sky, indicting God in front of the whole town. "I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty." She takes no responsibility for the move to Moab. She lays the blame entirely at Yahweh's feet. She is raw, honest, and angry. And standing silently behind her is Ruth. The women of Bethlehem look at Ruth with suspicion. They see the tattoo on her chin, or the weave of her dress, or the shape of her face unmistakably Moabite, the enemy, the seductress, the cursed lineage of Lot. Ruth feels the weight of being an outsider. No one welcomes her. No one offers her water. She is invisible, yet scrutinized. She has given up everything for this people, and their welcome is a cold stare. Naomi is too wrapped in her own bitterness to defend her. Ruth stands alone in the house of bread, hungry and hated, realizing that faith doesn't automatically fix your reputation. The next morning, the reality sets in. Grief doesn't stop hunger. The pantry is empty. Naomi sits in the dark corner of their small, borrowed shelter, paralyzed by depression. She cannot move. So Ruth stands up. She doesn't wait for a miracle. She puts on her sandals. "Let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain," she says. It is a humble request. Under the law of Moses, farmers were commanded not to harvest the corners of their fields, leaving the scraps for the poor and the foreigner. Ruth is volunteering to be a beggar with dignity. She walks out into the blinding sun of the harvest. The fields are full of men reapers with sickles, young men full of adrenaline and aggression. For a lone woman, especially a foreigner, the field is a dangerous place. Assault is common. Insults are guaranteed. Ruth finds a spot behind the reapers and begins to work. It is back-breaking labor. Bend down, pick up a single stalk, stand up. Repeat. The sun beats down on her neck. Her hands bleed from the sharp stubble. She is competing with other beggars, fighting for the crumbs that fall from the table of the rich. She works with a relentless, quiet ferocity. The overseer notices her. She doesn't stop to rest, except for a moment in the shelter. She is driven by the image of Naomi, sitting alone in the dark. Ruth is carrying the weight of 2 lives on her spine. She is an outsider scavenging in the dirt of a God she barely knows, trusting that there is mercy somewhere in this hard, rocky soil. She doesn't know whose field she is in. She just knows that if she stops, they die. She is the embodiment of grit. Then the landowner arrives. Boaz. He is a man of substance, a mighty man of valor. He walks among his workers, greeting them with, "The Lord be with you." It is a rare sound in the time of the judges, a man who actually honors God in his business. He scans his field. His eyes pass over the reapers, the servants, and land on the stranger, the woman working harder than anyone else. "Whose young woman is this?" he asks. The foreman answers with a hint of disdain. It is the young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi. The label is always there, the Moabite. But Boaz sees something else. He walks over to her. Ruth freezes. A wealthy landowner approaching a gleaner usually means trouble. He's going to kick her out or accuse her of stealing. Instead, Boaz speaks gently. "Listen, my daughter." He offers her 3 things she desperately needs. Protection. Do not go to glean in another field. Community. Keep close to my young women. And provision. Drink from the water jars. Ruth falls on her face, bowing to the ground. "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner?" She knows her place in the social hierarchy. She is at the bottom. Boaz's answer reveals that her reputation has traveled faster than her shame. "All that you have done for your mother-in-law has been fully told to me." He validates her sacrifice. He sees that she left her father and mother, just like Abraham did, to come to a people she didn't know. He pronounces a blessing over her. "May the Lord repay you, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." For the first time, Ruth feels the heat of God through the hands of a man. She sits at lunch with the workers, dipping her morsel in the wine, eating roasted grain until she is full. It is the first time in months she isn't hungry. Weeks pass. The harvest ends. Ruth brings home grain every day, bringing life back to Naomi's eyes. But grain runs out. Naomi knows that survival isn't enough. They need redemption. She wakes up from her fog of grief and becomes the strategist again. She looks at Ruth and sees a path forward. "My daughter, should I not seek rest for you?" She concocts a plan that is terrifyingly risky. It balances on the razor's edge between scandal and salvation. "Wash yourself, anoint yourself, put on your cloak, and go down to the threshing floor." It is night. The men are celebrating the end of the harvest. They are eating and drinking. The threshing floor is a place of business, but at night, it can be a place of loose morals. Naomi tells Ruth to wait until Boaz is asleep, then uncover his feet and lie down. In their culture, this is a loaded gesture. It can be seen as a servant's submission or a bold proposal of marriage. If Boaz wakes up drunk or angry, he could ruin Ruth's reputation forever. She could be branded a harlot. Ruth doesn't argue. She trusts Naomi's wisdom. She walks into the dark. The threshing floor smells of chaff, sweat, and wine. She finds Boaz sleeping by the heap of grain. Her heart is hammering against her ribs. She lifts the blanket from his feet and lies down in the dust. It is the most vulnerable position imaginable. At midnight, Boaz startles awake. He shivers. He reaches down and touches a woman. "Who are you?" He whispers into the dark. "I am Ruth, your servant," she whispers back. "Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer." She throws his own words back at him. You said I came under God's wings. Well, you are God's agent. Use your wings, the corner of your garment, to cover me. She is asking him to marry her, to buy back the land, to save the family line. It is audacious. It is risky. Boaz stares at her in the moonlight. He could reject her, but he sees her character. Blessed be you, he says. He calls her a worthy woman, but then a complication. There is a redeemer nearer than I. The tension spikes. The plan worked, but the law stands in the way. Morning breaks. The drama moves to the city gate, the ancient courtroom. Boaz wastes no time. He calls the elders. He calls the other kinsman, a man the Bible pointedly refuses to name, calling him essentially Mr. So-and-so. This man represents the law, the logic, the pragmatism of Orpah. Boaz presents the case. Naomi is selling the land of Elimelech. Do you want to buy it? The man's eyes light up. Land? Yes. It's a good investment. I will redeem it, he says quickly. He wants the asset. But then Boaz drops the hammer. The day you buy the field, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the widow of the dead, in order to perpetuate the name of the dead in his inheritance. The man stops. The math changes instantly. If he marries Ruth and has a son, that son takes the land. The man loses his investment. It hurts his own inheritance. It is a bad financial deal. I cannot redeem it, he says, taking off his sandal. The ancient sign of a transaction declined. I cannot damage my own inheritance. He chooses security. He chooses logic. He rejects the bride to save his wallet. Boaz smiles. This is what he wanted. He takes the sandal. He raises his voice to the elders. You are witnesses this day. Boaz pays the full price. He buys the land, but more importantly, he buys the trouble. He marries the foreigner. He absorbs the shame. He redeems the line. The story ends not with a funeral, but with a cradle. Naomi, the woman who called herself bitter, now holds a baby boy in her lap. The women of the town surround her again, but this time they say, Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a redeemer. They look at Ruth, the outsider, the Moabite, and say, She is worth more to you than 7 sons. Baby is Obed, who becomes the father of Jesse, who becomes the father of David. And centuries later, in this same little town of Bethlehem, another baby would be born. A redeemer who would look at a bride that was foreign, bankrupt, and curse, and pay the full price to make her his own. The risk of Ruth led straight to the redemption of the world. Ruth didn't know she was building a throne. She just thought she was picking up grain to survive the week. That is the paradox of faith. Orpah made the calculated choice. She secured her immediate future in Moab, and she vanished from history. Ruth lost her life, and she found herself in the lineage of the king. We live in a world that worships control. We are told to predict every outcome, to hedge every bet. But you cannot calculate the kingdom of God. Maybe you are standing on that dusty road right now. Logic is telling you to turn back to what is comfortable, to the illusion of predictability in Moab. But deep down, you know the bread of life isn't back there. Don't let your common sense talk you out of your destiny. God isn't looking for people who can predict the rain. He is looking for people willing to stand in the scorching sun until the harvest comes. The path of Naomi wasn't easy. It was just true. If you feel the weight of the dust of Moab on your feet, maybe it's time to start walking home. Hit that subscribe button, not to join a channel, but so you don't have to walk this road alone. The harvest is ready. The Redeemer is waiting. Don't look back. I'll see you in the field.